Okay, just giving you updates on the weather. It's still raining outside, so there's no reason to go outside. Okay, our next, come on up. Here we go. Okay, our next interview is, we have Robert Cook, who is President and CEO of FINRA and Chairman of the FINRA Investor Education Foundation, where he leads the firm's efforts to protect investors and safeguard market integrity. And interviewing Robert today is Cass Sanford, who's the Deputy General Counsel at OTC Markets Group, where she supports the firm's regulatory and policy-making initiatives, and she is also an STA Board of Governors. So with that, Cass, I'll turn over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. And good morning, Robert.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us, whether you're here in person or remotely. I do promise that we will get into some of the issues that were raised on the first panel, complex products and some retail issues, even some crypto. But first, I want to start off with something that's a little bit more of a universal topic and something that's certainly impacted everyone in this room over the past couple of years, which is the remote working environment. You know, some folks are working in the office full time, others have adopted a more hybrid schedule, and some are working remotely all the time, different locations. What is FINRA's longer term thinking with respect to remote working, and can we expect any updated rules related to remote work or supervision?
Yeah, thanks, Cass, for that question. Great to be with you, and thanks, Jim and STA, for having me back again. Really appreciate it. Great question, obviously very timely. During the pandemic, FINRA gave a lot of blanket relief to address these kinds of issues. Now that we're hopefully emerging from that situation, I hope we don't forget a lot of what we learned during the pandemic, which is the ability to conduct things very effectively in a different sort of way. And I think you nailed it. You know, we're hearing from our firms that, you know, some want everyone back in the office, but some don't. And I think our goal is to try to figure out, to the extent we can, how do we accommodate those different business models, not dictate them. And our rules were all really written at a time when the office was a brick and mortar kind of construct, right? And we know that some longer term trends that were going on well before the pandemic really got accelerated by the pandemic. And a lot of good reasons to try to accommodate them, including inclusion of more people in the workforce. So we have a number of initiatives to try to address this. There are a couple, there's sort of a first phase where we're trying to address what we've heard from the industry, most difficult pain points that are coming up right now. So we've got a couple proposals with the SEC that have been filed with the SEC. One is a residential supervisory location. What that really means is that you could conduct under the supervisory activities from your home without it becoming a branch. And we think we've got pretty good support from that from the folks who we ran it by in our advisory committees, and so that's pending with the SEC. The second one, and the one people I think are most concerned about right now, is the remote inspections. So what we proposed was a 3-year pilot to allow firms to inspect branches remotely, subject to certain conditions. And then they'd have to provide some data to us so we could assess how effective that was during the pilot. So that also is pending with the SEC. I think there's been a lot of concerns raised about that proposal that we've heard, and that's going to need to be amended in order to get approved. So what we're working on is what kind of amendments can we make to it? And those obviously would be filed with the SEC and then put out for comment again.
Now, I think what firms are really, at this point, a little frustrated with is just the uncertainty, right? Around, we have this relief that's ending shortly, and what should I do with my employees when they ask me to work from home or work from a different location? But shifting gears to something that is more certain, how have you seen the remote examinations go so far? It's been going on for over 2 years now. Has it been successful? What are the types of issues that you've seen, and how has that been working?
Well, I mean, to that point, there's always the possibility of extending the current environment, a blanket exemption for some period of time, and recognizing that this proposal we have for a 3-year pilot probably won't be approved by the end of this year when the existing relief runs out. You know, the obvious question is, why don't you just extend the existing relief for some period of time? And that's something that we would be prepared to do as soon as the SEC was willing to accept that action by us. So we've been doing inspections remotely at FINRA. We're doing some in person now. We're ramping up to do more in person. But we found that a lot can be done effectively remotely. The SEC has been doing their exams remotely. We're looking at firms' behavior and kind of experience in this space, and we're hearing from them. We've done a lot of roundtables and stuff to understand what works and what doesn't. There's a lot of great technology that's available to help with these inspections. I think the key is to remember that the inspection piece of this is only one part of a broader supervisory set of procedures and policies and technology that firms have to see what's happening in remote locations. And so I think we've seen firms innovate a lot in this space. Not every firm's the same. We got a big industry, got a lot of different ways of approaching this, but we've seen a lot of good practices, and those are the ones we want to try to encourage.
Great. Now, I just want to touch really quickly. You mentioned inclusion when you first responded. What sorts of activities is FINRA doing in the diversity and inclusion space?
Well, there's a lot, and probably more than we'll have time for if you want to get to other questions. But the most recently, a couple of things we've been working on. First, we just formed an industry diversity advisory committee, which we're really excited about. We hope that'll help us think about what more FINRA can do in this space and to help support industry efforts to be more diverse. FINRA is not a diversity regulator. Just want to be clear. We're not going to adopt rules about how you need to promote a diverse workforce. But we are at the center of a lot of these conversations and have a ability as an SRO to be a convener and promote dialogue. We're having our, I think it's 9th or 10th Diversity Leadership Summit the week after next, and so really excited about that. The plug to join if you'd like to do that. But one of the areas we've seen some opportunity here, besides just looking internally at FINRA's and what we do, which is really important, but is to kind of look at, are we getting in the way of diversity? Mm-hmm. And we issued a notice last year where we requested comment on just that. Like we're not going to regulate it, but we ought to know if we're impeding it. And we got some really great comment letters and have been moving forward on some ideas there. For example, there was a question about whether smaller firms, minority women, veteran-owned firms are able to participate fully in syndicates because of the way the syndicate settlement process worked. So we worked with some trade associations and the industry and put forward a proposal that's now pending with the SEC that would substantially address that. That's a win-win, I think. I think there are other things like that that were raised in this comment file that we're kind of working through other ideas to help make sure our rules are as open to, and frankly, I don't know any other regulator that's done this, so not to blow FINRA's horn, but I think every regulator ought to step back and look at, hey, are there any unintended consequences of the way our rules work that could unnecessarily impede greater diversity in the industry?
No, that's fantastic, and I think particularly with respect to remote working, which impacts all of us, and in taking a more holistic, inclusive view when you're reviewing those types of rules. Now, turning gears, I want to discuss FINRA's transparency initiatives. This year marks the 20th anniversary of TRACE, FINRA's trade reporting and compliance engine that brought transparency to the fixed income space. What is FINRA working on with respect to transparency initiatives? Any new developments?
There's actually a lot going on both in the fixed income space and in the equity space. Yes, 20th anniversary of TRACE. It's actually the 5th anniversary of TRACE for Treasuries. And just to show you what geeks we are, we actually had a birthday celebration for these things with little cookies that said 25 and 20 on it. It was cute. So
there'll be cake at the 25th.
Yeah, exactly. But in the fixed income space, look, big picture, we think TRACE has added a lot of value to the markets, giving market participants, investors, more complete, accurate, comprehensive bond pricing information, better evaluate execution quality, helps regulators better evaluate compliance with the rules. So big picture, we think this has been a good thing. But it's also been a story of kind of gradually improving it over time, which also has benefits of sort of this incremental approach. And so we've been thinking about and constantly evolving it. Now, earlier this year, Chair Gensler kind of gave us a list of suggestions that he did this in a public speech of things we ought to consider. A number of those have already been implemented. I think those are more, small games, so to speak. The one that's most controversial, and we put it out for comment, was to reduce the reporting period from the current no later than 15 minutes to no later than 1 minute. The 15-minute thing was set 17 years ago, so it's been a while. A lot of things have become more electronic. And there could be value in getting this information out more quickly, because as soon as it's reported in, we transmit it out. We've heard a lot of comment on this. As you can imagine, some people think it's a great idea, more transparency, more quickly around better inform their understanding where the markets are. We also heard a lot of really, I think, valuable input on a couple of things. One is like some of the operational complexities. Like, a lot of trades are already reported within a 1 minute, but there may be operational reasons why some of those trades aren't, especially when they're voice brokered or agreed to over the phone. Smaller firms have some compliance challenges here if we were to shorten it significantly. So there's a lot of really interesting practical problems we need to think hard about. And then there was the question of kind of unintended consequences vis-a-vis liquidity in the markets, impact on block trades, people's willingness to commit capital. Really good thoughts and comments there. So we're working through those comments. I don't know where we're going to go. I'm very interested in exploring whether, consistent with the long-term approach we've taken with Trace, there are sort of incremental steps we can take to improve without necessarily going all the way to a much shorter time frame. Maybe it's a incrementally shorter time frame. Maybe there are other things, and I think some of the comment letters identified this, that we could do that would make it easier for firms to report more quickly. So lots to come there. Other things in this area, so Treasury's requested comment on making Treasury transaction information public, and we'll see where they go with their thinking there. The Fed Reserve Board started collecting through FINRA's Trace, transaction information by commercial banks. I think that was pretty important because our members were saying, hey, how come we have to report and the commercial banks don't have to report? And so that playing field has been more leveled than it was in the past. And so and we're also interested in having conversations with the industry about pre-trade transparency. Now, this is a big topic, right? So it is, just as I said, we want to have some conversations about this. It's not the first time this issue's come up before. The Fixed Income Market Advisory Committee that the SEC had, they talked about this, thought about this. So we just want to have some conversations with with folks in the industry. If you're interested in this, come talk to us. We'd love to hear more of your thoughts about that. On the equity side, just to jump there, in the OTC equity space, we proposed a rule that would essentially require quarterly order routing disclosures for OTC equities, similar to kind of 606 for NMS stocks. We think we got pretty, on balance, some really good comments there, but see a path forward. So we're likely to want to move forward with proposing that. We also suggested that FINRA could help aggregate NMS disclosures of order routing in one place, make it easier for investors to get that. We've heard some good feedback on that, so that's something we'll probably consider moving forward. So there's a whole bunch going on, but those are some of the big topics.
No, that's excellent. And I mean, particularly with respect to the fixed income space, there's a lot going on there. So it seems like you're considering the various impact on firms of other regulations and how that entire ecosystem is modernizing. I want to switch now to the complex products. Request for comment that was published earlier this year, really just seeking comment and outlining some of FINRA's thinking with respect to this kind of nebulous term, complex products, right? The notice does seem to have hit a nerve within the industry. What were you hoping to accomplish in publishing that, and what are your next steps?
It almost sounded like you were going to say, what were you thinking?
Tone it down.
Yeah, well done, well done. Look, let me just, we asked for comment on retail, the landscape, the regulatory landscape around retail investor participation in complex products and options. We asked a lot of questions. We got a lot of great feedback, and really valuable to help inform our thinking. And I want to thank everyone who took the time to write on that, because it's really helpful for us to hear. We got a lot of comment letters, and we're still working through them. I just want to put a marker down as to what exactly did FINRA do. What we did was request comment. We didn't actually propose a rule here. The idea was to sort of gather sort of an initial set of pre-proposal kind of comments on what should FINRA be thinking about in this space. And if we decide to move forward with a proposal, we have a lot of steps we need to move through that would be consistent with our normal rulemaking process, right? We'd have to, develop the proposal. We'd have to do an economic impact assessment. We talk to our advisory committees. We put the proposal out for comment. And then if we decide to move forward, we file it with the SEC. They put it out for comment. And frankly, for a lot of our more meaty rules, there's a second round of comment at the SEC. So, thinking about next steps here and just kind of where is this in the sort of the rulemaking timeline? We haven't even started to propose a rule here. And if we did, there are 2, maybe 3 more rounds of comments that we would get on it, including all those other things I mentioned, like an economic impact assessment. So this is really, this is sort of what the SEC might call a concept release, right? Nothing's being proposed now. But so why would we even sort of be thinking about this space? Well, we do have a lot of rules that are specific to certain products that have varying degrees of complexity with them. And take options, for an example. We have an options rule set consistent with all the options exchanges that says, hey, if you're going to open an account for options, even if you don't make a recommendation, you have to take certain steps to qualify the account, essentially, to approve the account for options trading. I feel like if we were proposing that today, everyone would say, merit regulation, and that's terrible. But that's a rule we've been living with for 45 years. And it really hasn't changed much since the late 70s. Even though a lot of things have changed since then, right? Maybe not gas prices or things like that, or my sense of humor. But there's been a lot of change since then. Markets have, at that time, if you wanted to trade an option, you actually had to go to a broker or maybe an advisor. But you'd have to go through someone who then would, under this rule, qualify you to trade options and then decide, well, which types of options should you be able to trade? That rule is still on the books today. But it hasn't evolved to reflect the fact that today, people can go access the markets without going through a professional. Is that good? Is that bad? I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying things have changed a lot. And one of the things that regulators are often asked to do is to take a retrospective review of their rules when things have changed. A lot of other things have changed here too. Technology more broadly, the vast array of new products that customers can access, investor behavior, where they get their information. There's just been a lot of changes in the last 45 years since that rule set was adopted. And all of this, I think, in our minds merited, let's take a look at this. We're not the first people to say this is an area that might benefit from some looking. I don't think this is a partisan issue. Chairman Clayton and his senior staff issued a joint statement in 2020 saying they had concerns in this space and requesting comment and saying they're going to look at it. And what they were focused on wasn't so much options, but complex ETFs, leveraged inverse ETFs, other types of things that they called complex products. And they said they were concerned that retail investors were accessing the markets, maybe not fully understanding the risks of what they were doing, what they were investing in. And that they drew a contrast to a situation where an investor might go to an advisor or a broker and get a recommendation that had to be in the best interest of the customer. I'm just summarizing what was in that joint statement by Chair Clayton. So Republican administration, right? So I think this is an issue that people, that we have to be careful about. And I want to be very clear. I think that a lot of the types of trends I was just describing are absolutely fantastic, right? And broader market participation by retail investors, broader choices for them, easier access to the markets. These are really good things. On top of that, the ability to use some of this new technology to better educate investors. And they were talking about previous panel about that. I think that's terrific, right? How do we leverage this technology to educate investors? But our goal as regulators is how do you preserve those things, but also preserve investor protection and investor confidence in the markets? And I think that one way to do that is to make sure we're, from time to time looking at our rule set and figuring out, have we struck the right balance? And when we do that, we have to be willing to say, no, we haven't, or maybe we have. And we don't need to do anything further. But I think this area warranted that as, and essentially a follow-up on that joint statement from 2020.
Great. Well, I do want to ask one follow-up question on that. The concept of complex products in the notice is purposefully broad, I think, right? Is it FINRA's intention to use this concept to capture new and novel products that might come out down the road, or can we expect some specificity out of whatever rule or guidance that might come of this?
Good question. Like I said, I don't even know. I think one of the things we asked in the request for comment was, should we try to define complex products? It's a term that's been in the FINRA kind of lexicon for a while. Back in 2012, we issued a notice about complex products and things firms should think about, and giving some kind of general characteristics. It's not a rule. It was just guidance. But it's been a principles-based approach. And as I said before, we do have some rules that are very specific for certain types of products, options being one of them, and there are some other products that have very specific tailored rules. I don't know whether it would make sense to try to define complex products more generally. I think there's some real challenges in doing that. I think a principles-based approach probably makes more sense and creates a space where firms and their compliance systems can more effectively evolve over time to address new products. We certainly don't want to, draw the lines in ink here. I think this is more of a, let's use pencil and erase and fix as we go forward. But as I said, back to the part, we're still digesting the comments and not even sure when or if we will move forward.
Okay. And before we move on to the next topic, any response directly to Dan Gallagher and the merit regulation of these products? I have to ask.
He might have been out of the room when I said, the existing options rule book you could call merit regulation. But no, I think I appreciate Dan's advice, I always, and his thoughts. And I'm glad, I get them for free. That's great. Free, and I do air quotes around free. But no, I mean, I think my point was simply that I actually don't think I think I agree with a lot of what he was saying about the need to be very thoughtful in this space, about the incredible value that new products, new technology, new ways to access the market has brought, greater retail participation, more diverse retail participation. These are all really good things. I just think that as regulators, we have to ask questions about this. And I think there's one thing about that release that maybe missed the mark was that people saw it as more of a directional approach by FINRA. Like, we're planning to do some of these things we're asking questions about, when really it was maybe more of a little bit too much inside FINRA, kind of, hey, what are the questions that have been raised out there by academics or others or other jurisdictions, and let's see what people think about those here. So ask more questions, we'll get more input. That turned out to be very true, but it also turned out to maybe trigger people to think we're going to go immediately to the most extreme type of approach that was sort of reflected in some of the questions we asked.
Right, but I mean, any feedback is good feedback,
yes.
So a lot of feedback is great.
Again, and thanks to everyone who took the time to write on that. We appreciate it.
Now, you kind of are helping me segue into the next topic around new technologies, new products, new entrants to the market. We had some discussion of crypto this morning on the panel before, and we're certainly going to talk about it on the next panel, as well as throughout the day, and crypto number 2 panel on Friday. So I would be remiss if I didn't ask you some thoughts on this space. Chair Gensler recently shifted its focus a bit towards intermediaries, suggesting that some of them may be required to register as broker-dealer. So from your perspective, what is FINRA's role with respect to regulating crypto, and how do you see that evolving? What are you seeing now?
Sure. Well, in terms of our role today, first of all, there are a lot of big questions here, like what is the status of particular products under the existing rules? What should the status be? Where will the SEC, CFTC go? Where will Congress go? A lot of FINRA's role is going to be trickle down from all that, right? I mean, we're not deciding those issues. But that said, we do have a role here today in a couple of respects. First of all, we have a number of broker-dealers who've already been approved to just do digital asset security business, pure crypto asset security business only. There's a couple dozen. We've got more than that in the pipeline. So we have member firms coming online who are engaged in this activity, and that in turn requires us to get better as a regulator in thinking about these issues. We have a lot of our member firms have registered reps who are engaged in some of these crypto activities as outside business activities, and that can trigger our rule, and we need to get smarter and better at it for that reason. We have a lot of firms who offer crypto products, in ways that are, most of the trading in crypto, by the way, I should start with this, is not in a broker-dealer. So we can only regulate the activities of our members. And so most of the vast majority of crypto trade activities outside of FINRA's jurisdiction because it's not done in a FINRA member today. But a lot of our members have sort of affiliates who offer these products and the like. So that's another touch point where we need to understand how does that relate to the broker-dealer. But even more generally, step back from crypto, like the underlying technology, digital, distributed ledger technology, it's foundational and we think it has the potential to fundamentally change a lot of what's happening in the industry longer term. And our role as a regulator, we're thinking about, are there things we ought to put on a blockchain type of system just to sort of either as a sort of a side to the public-facing work we do or within the public. So we're excited about getting more engaged on this. We have been. We've got people in our member supervision group. We've got an Office of Financial Innovation, which is working on this blockchain lab with our technology group to figure out how do we build or adopt new technology. So all in all, even as the world exists today, we have a touch point that we're going to be investing more resources in promoting. Now, you asked about the future. Like I said, I don't know what the future is going to bring. I do think that one of the things about FINRA's regulatory status is that we regulate our members, right? And you don't have to be a FINRA member if you don't trade securities. But if you do become a FINRA member, then we have the ability to regulate, securities products and non-securities products. And I mention that because I know one of the concerns I've heard about people when they think about what would it look like if we became regulated, is they'd have to think about they don't want to have to dissect every product and figure out, is this a security, is this not a security? Looking at it only from FINRA rules perspective, that's an area of flexibility we have. Sometimes we regulate a security. Some of our rules apply to security. Some of them apply to any activity by a broker-dealer. Some of them apply to specific business models. So we can tailor our rule set so that where it's appropriate for a rule to apply, it does, and where it's not, it doesn't. And we create a new rule set. Those are all things that we can easily do. Now, I think that's, again, a bit of a trickle-down issue because the real questions here are really under SEC rules that apply, where people have to figure out is it security or is it not. I'm just saying that if it came to people having to become a FINRA member and then trying to figure out whether FINRA rules apply or not, I think we have the flexibility to essentially say, potato, whether it's a security or not, this is the rule set you would follow, and then people have regulatory certainty as regards FINRA rules.
Well, that's certainly, I think, very interesting and helpful for this crowd to know that there's a bit more of a malleable structure there to work with respect to digital assets, because you're not looking at the security status. I know we're just about out of time. Just very, very quickly, wanted to get your quick thoughts on the SEC's 6-point equity marketing structure and ask you about best
really
execution. 30 seconds.
On which?
Best execution.
Best ex, okay.
Yes.
I think FINRA's best ex rule has been very effective over the years. And I think one of the ways it's been effective is by being principle-based guidance that evolves over time. We have to keep interpreting it, give advice, give interpretive guidance to reflect new market trends. Some might say we haven't done that often enough. Some might say we've done it too much, but it's a living, breathing kind of ecosystem. So I don't know what the SEC is going to do. I would say that if they want to federalize that approach, that it's like adopting a puppy. You got to care and feed for it, right? You can't just forget. It needs that ongoing kind of attention, and you're signing up for quite a bit there. There may be good reason to do it. I'm not saying that they shouldn't do it or it's still not sensible in their perspective. I just say, please bear that in mind as an ongoing obligation. Really, that's true of every rule you adopt, right? You can't just put it on the books and forget about it, but especially this rule.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure, especially to learn that you're a dog person.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Cass.
everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.